It's time to open up your eyes. Open your eyes will make you wealthy and wise. You can watch it rise.
You're listening to Enterprise on Blog Talk Radio with your host, Erica Collins.
Welcome to America's Enterprise. I'm your host, Erica Collins, and we're here at the 18th Annual Rainbow Push Coalition Wall Street Project Economic Summit in New York City, Times Square. I'm here with CeCe Pennison.
And actually, you know what? I came in to support everybody. I actually wasn't doing an actual speech, but I was here in support. And because I do music myself as a recording artist, I like to see panels where people are talking about how music evolves, how the past has come to the present. Just, you know, as a fellow artist, just support my other fellow recording artists as well.
Okay, and what advice would you give for artists to empower themselves through business?
Be intentional. Make people understand and care about what you're doing. People don't just have a mind to where they can always see the vision. You have to create the vision. You have to be determined on doing it and use the no's to the yes. And, be a dreamer and risk taker, because without being a risk taker, it doesn't always happen. You got to be able to just say, you know what, I don't know what they're going to say, but the worst thing they can tell me is no.
And what upcoming projects do you have, or what are you working on now?
Oh, a lot of good stuff. I have a single that I had put out, doing a video too. It's called Nothing Can Stop Me Now, which I feel like, you speak your greatness into the universe. I just did an independent movie. I just competed in a bikini fitness competition at 45. I lost like 30 pounds and got in shape and did that. Thank you. I'm working on a swimsuit line. I'm working on a Neal Soul project. I'm working on a regular CeCe Pennison project as well. I just was in the studio with Calvin Richardson yesterday. They call him the Prince of R&B. I said the Prince of R&B and the Queen of Dance in the studio. They were like, what? Okay. So I thought it was like a great dynamic, and I really loved how it turned out. So, and I'm on my way. I'm doing some press here, got a show for Martin Luther King, and then on my way to London for 10 days to a festival and perform with an orchestra.
Busy. You were definitely the business mogul all around. So what would you like to leave our audience with from today?
I would just like to tell everybody, thank you so much for your support. I came out in 1991, 24 years later. I'm still doing what I love to do, and that's because the fans support and love CeCe. And I thank you for your continued support, and I'm going to do what I can to make y'all smile. So thank you, and it's people like you, interviewing me and taking the time. I appreciate it. Put me out there, so thank you again.
Yeah, we were jamming too. Welcome to the 18th Annual Wall Street Project Economic Summit. I'm here with Jineea Butler of the Social Services of Hip Hop. Hi, Jineea.
Hi, Erica. How are you?
People don't know, but we've known each other for how long?
Since babies, since we were 12 years old, correct?
Probably about junior high school.
Uh-huh.
Jineea is here doing a very, very special part of the event focused on hip hop. Can you tell us a little bit about the social services of hip hop and how you got started?
Well, the social services of hip hop is a technical assistance intermediary that that identifies and solves problems that affect the growth of hip hop. So basically what we do is we create programming that helps hip hop grow and expand. This came into existence by evolution, just basic research, and I started my college career and I started studying and working with Ed Lover and realizing that hip hop needed its own specialized services for ourselves. So I just continued to create that and inadvertently created a niche market.
How did you meet with Ed Lover?
Interesting, basketball. So my life before hip hop is basketball. And I was playing for Long Island University, Brooklyn. And Ed Lover came as a celebrity, one of the celebrity basketball games. And we just kind of went, they put us on the Hot 97 Hot Shots. And we just kind of went from there, and we played basketball with him. And, he just opened up the door for me.
Okay. And roundabout, when did you start your organization?
The organization Social Services Hip Hop started in 2000. So we had played and toyed with the ideas from 97 to 2000, and then we opened the Social Services of Hip Hop and have been just building ever since. And then hence the Hip Hop Union, which we're celebrating here, which is one of the initiatives. So we create programs. One of those programs that we've created is the Hip Hop Union.
Okay. And you talked a little bit about, I think it was Hip Hop Honors.
Absolutely.
What is that exactly?
So most people know it as Hip Hop Honors, where each one featured different honorees, but that came from the research and development through the social service of hip hop, of me really just sitting back and saying, you know what, nobody's saying thank you to these people that came before us, and we really need to do that. And this was out of studying, and so we created what it was first called was the Dimension of Hip Hop Fashion Tribute, where we honored Ernie Panic, Ed Lover, Flavor Flav, and a host of other people, and it just evolved into another dimension, which was what it was for.
And what is the mission of social services of hip hop, and what are your biggest accomplishments so far?
To uplift, empower, and educate by any means necessary. So that's our mission, is that this is what we have to do right now. We don't have a choice. There's no space for that.
Your greatest accomplishments?
The greatest accomplishments, just over time, is really reconnecting hip hop with its roots and really being on the forefront of that, and also just being the forefront of analyzing hip hop and really being a voice for who we are as hip hop citizens and in the hip hop community, and giving us that value. Over the 5 years that we've spent with the Hip Hop Union, what we've been able to do is we've been able to connect with Capitol Hill and the White House and really, voice our opinions about having our own entrepreneurship subsidy, and really looking at who we are as capital in the capitalistic society, who we are as citizens of hip hop, and how we play into the bigger picture. Also, we were invited to Seoul, Korea for the largest World Peace Conference Summit in Korea, where we talked about hip hop's transformative power, and how when you were talking about peace and the blueprint for peace and blueprint for bringing all races and religions together, that you have to put hip hop in that conversation. And then we made a deal with the Black Press, the National Newspaper Publishers Association, who is, saturated throughout the country to carry our messages and to really push who we are and the positive images, and look at a different angle in hip hop. Right now a lot of people focus on the artists and the content and the state of the music, but what we are focusing on is we're focused on the economic, political, and educational development of our community and our people.
Okay, you mentioned a little bit about a super PAC.
Absolutely. So what we're here at the 18th Annual Wall Street Project Economic Summit is, we're talking today about the political base, our super PAC. It's called the Hip Hop United. So again, what we've been doing for the last 5 years of the Hip Hop Union is really looking at what it is that we need to do. And so we came up with the idea and the fact that, okay, we need to be more politically aware, not just politically involved, because when people want to spend big money, it's easy. They just come to us and say, hey, we want you to vote, and they woo us. But see, we're looking at it a different way, where, you're not going to woo us. We're going to be already up to speed, and we're going to participate on our own without it. And so if you don't contribute, if you don't become a part and support who we are as hip hop citizens and support and recognize our vote, then we're already going to know, and we're already going to understand. And so what the community needs is not, we need to know who's running, why they're running, what each office does, and go back to the beginning and understand why we need to be participating in the political process. And that's what our Super PAC is about.
Okay. And how did you get involved with the Wall Street Project specifically?
Well, it's just interesting. A young man, his name is Andrew Carr, who used to be the executive director of the Wall Street Project. He gave us an opportunity to come and meet with Reverend Jackson to talk about, who we are as the community and as citizens, and really be invited to the World's Table. So to be celebrating 5 years later at the World's Table, when we just went to Korea and spoke in front of 50,000, that's the World's Table, 170 countries, that's the World's Table. So it's in 5 years we were able to do that, because that's the power of hip hop.
And I'm going to take one of those phrases from one of those movies. When did you fall in love with hip hop?
Ooh, I could tell you exactly when I fell in love with hip hop. I used to be in my brother's room, rummaging around, and I went and I played one of his tapes, and it was Public Enemy, Fight the Power. And like it was, it wasn't Fight the Power, it was before that, but it was Public Enemy, and I would listen. He would always kick me out, and so all his tapes, and then it was KRS-One and BDP, and then it was like, wow. And then I started falling in love, before all of this. Of course, I've known the Curtis Blow, because that was my favorite song growing up, is basketball. I'm actually a basketball player, so I look at how hip hop has transformed my life, and so many things and so many people that have influenced me, have bring it. But I fell in love with hip hop when I was sneaking into my brother's room and sneaking, pressing on his tapes, and he would like kick me out, and he didn't know what I was doing. So that's when I fell in love with hip hop.
So what, the social services of hip hop, what message do you try to give the youth now?
That's a very interesting, I try to more so just myself. And not so much from the social services of hip hop, like coming from being a basketball player, coming from, being from Cherry Hill, New Jersey, coming from just, being able to succeed at anything that I put my mind to. That's exactly what I talk to them about. I talk to them about making a decision and sticking to that decision. Because for me, my life was about making a decision. I mean, I'm sure that you remember when we were younger and I was all hip hop, and I was like, I'm going to New York and I'm going to do this. And, I foresaw everything that I'm doing right now. And so I see how that pattern is now, and I see what that really is about. It's like, oh my God, you said what you're going to do and you're doing it. And so I think that's the message that I translate to the kids, is that do what you say you're going to do. Right? And live out your heart, live out your dream, and don't worry about anybody else, because people are going to always tell you can't do something. Sure. I've never been in any step of anything in my life where somebody didn't tell me that I couldn't do it, where I had no support to believe in myself. And that was the biggest thing, is that you have to believe in yourself. So you have to get really concrete with that. Because if you're not okay with yourself, you're not going to be okay with everybody else talking all this mess around you and stuff.
So the evolution of hip hop since we were young. I know my first tape was Run DMC. I think that was a birthday gift from one of our Cherry Hill friends. How would you say the music has changed since we were younger to now, and the messages that they were giving maybe back then versus now?
Well, Rakim is one of the people that's on the panel today, and I think he said it best. I've seen him in D.C. talking at the Congressional Black Caucus, and he said it best when he said, the artists of today are a little less conscious than they were back in the day.
Very good.
And I think that says it all. Is because these young people, we can't fault them for being creative and coming up with stuff, right? But we might be able to fault ourselves for not being able to pass on this consciousness in this way. And I think that's been my fight, is that because hip hop did so much for me, I can't see it not doing that same for the kids. I can't see it now, you making the kids use this in the wrong way. So it's being used in the wrong way, but again, it still shows the power, because even when when it's terrible, when the state of hip hop is terrible, it's still powerful in that you are influencing these kids to do terrible things and to think terrible things as well. And that's the power in it, and I think that's what we have to always take out of it.
True. Last week, they showed the first series for Empire.
Right.
I think we're going to miss that tonight because you got a gala going on. But how do you feel about some of the images in movies?
Well, I said to somebody the other day, I said, listen, be careful about the images that you're putting out. You're saying, you're calling yourself a gangster. Be careful about that. And he says, well, I'm not trying to say anything. How is me saying that I'm a gangster mean that I'm saying anything? It's because regardless of what we put out in the world is what we get back. And so right now, where so many kids are being mistaken for thugs and mistaken for this element that exists, and I think that we need to recognize that this element, that these people are maybe have an illusion on the people that are in front of them, but that element exists. You can, we are talking about it like, oh, they're so wrong for being scared of their lives, right?
True.
They're talking about it like, oh, what do you have to fear? We don't ever do anything wrong. right? And so we've worked overtime and showing the negative aspects, and kind of pulling our pants down, as hence a play on words, but yeah, pulling our pants down and showing our slips and showing our boxers and showing everything, but we're showing too much.
True.
Right? And so they say, well, why this person and that person? You don't say anything about that. But when you look at this, we're just telling too much. We're snitching on ourselves. Mm-hmm. We need to keep something in the closet.
Okay.
Right? And so these images today, while they sell, and you look at the fact that Fox News is doing this, and they're doing this to the black community. That's because Fox News only has 1% black viewers. And this is where the super PAC comes in at, and this is where we look at the political aspect of what is happening to us. And instead of people coming to us when they need us, we need to leverage and use when we need them.
True. That's very true. It's interesting that you were able to cite the 1% from Fox, because a lot of people don't realize, because there's a lot of the African American community that's interested in local Fox News, but they don't associate it with the cable network,
right?
Fox Channel News, which is considered pretty much a conservative station. For last, let's a little bit back to the business. What advice would you give young, aspiring business people in hip hop, and also who want to get into maybe the nonprofit world?
Well, it's interesting. First, I would not lean so much. In the black community, we lean a lot on nonprofit. We got to start thinking profit. Okay, because we got to get our money up for real. Like, we play money, and we play glamorous and everything like that. But, bank accounts and the money is not right. The median income in the black community is like, I think it's $28,000, and that's the average, right? So that means that I don't care what you're saying. Too many people are not making that much money, if that's the average, right? And so that's terrible for as much money that's out here. So, and I say that to say that.
What advice would you give corporate and nonprofit young people that want to get into business?
So the advice that I would give them first is do your research, right? Don't just come out and say that I'm a business and I've opened this. Let's do the research. Learn what a business is. It created people thinking about entrepreneurship and the mindset of entrepreneurship. Right? That's the great part about hip hop. So now what we're doing, what we're focusing on is now what we do with this and really making it. So join in, come on board.
And last, because this summit is really focusing on technology.
Absolutely.
So how would you say technology is affecting hip hop?
Well, hip hop has been in the technology business for a long time. So we got engineers and we got all these entities, but we now have to take advantage of it. The Department of Energy and the Minorities in Energy Initiative, they're unleashing that they want 1 million new STEM graduates, right, by 2020. They want, I think it's 10,000 new STEM teachers, right? And so what we need to look at when we say that is what percentage of that do we want, right? You got all these new jobs coming out in STEM, and there's this influx and shortage of people in there now. So we can go into this industry and say that we want 35-40% of this industry. We can steer our kids to say, get a job in STEM because there's going to be money, and we can start looking at that because we have to start planning our future. We have to stop giving our kids an open end to whatever you want when they don't have any dreams. We have to give them something to dream about. If we give them a goal, at least they could say is, I want to do something else. But if we give them nothing and say, hey, there's nothing to do, then that's what they're going to be doing.
It's true. And we just saw President Obama actually coding. I know there's a push to teach the young people about coding. Well, Jineea, it has been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, my gosh. No, thank you.
Having you at this great event. We can't wait to see you on the panel.
Absolutely.
And I'm quite sure you're going to have some spectacular things this evening.
Yeah. I think it's going to be good. And then, our party tomorrow, we've got Rakim performing, DJ Scratch, Tony Neal, just the full works in the gambit of hip-hop. So I'm just happy to celebrate hip-hop in that way.
Okay, so for a last message for our viewers, is there anything you'd like to say?
This is Jineea Butler, and I am a citizen of hip-hop.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sean Granberry. I'm CEO of Watch Now Networks. We're introducing our flagship product, which would be Hip Hop TV, which is a 24/7 over-the-top network, meaning we broadcast directly to smart devices, your computers, smartphones, tablets, etc. We're also building a closed network around the country and eventually around the world. So we are what you call the new way to broadcast. So now content for younger people is consumed through their smartphone and then transferred to a set-top box, like a PlayStation or a Roku box, etc. So we are building the future of broadcast. So over the next 10, 20, even 5 years, we will see that cable, when we pay those large cable bills, will soon be changed. It's changing right in front of your face now. We're building a backbone and platform for those networks. So we're here to announce our not only what we're doing as a network, but how we're working with Hip Hop Union, how we're working with global hip hop ambassadors around the world, how we're working with the Universal Zulu Nation to have one simple question: what can hip hop do? We've had some great examples through the conference with Reverend Jackson and a lot of the panelists and guest speakers. But we feel that there's a time now when there's a serious communication gap to young people. And we feel that hip hop was made by young people. It started in the streets of the South Bronx with former gang members coming together, deciding not to kill each other and fight, but rather dance and create graffiti and DJ and end up rapping. So hip hop was a solution in the late 70s, early 80s, and saved a lot of lives. It is now time for hip hop to be a solution again. More than ever, we need it. More than ever, we need a solution. And that's what we're talking about, bringing together all the forces that be and answering the question, what can hip hop do? All right. We're going to go bringing together all the forces of hip hop around the world and start answering what can we do economically, socially, ownership. Now it's time that we turn the table and say we're not going to just entertain everybody. We're going to own the entertainment vehicle. It's a big difference. Reverend Jackson will tell you it's a big difference between entertaining people and owning the network that entertains people. So now it's time to turn those tables. I'm going to pass it on to Pete Frank Williams to start on this end. And we're going to open it up for any questions.
Collins, for the entire panel, the first question I have is, are you developing a venture capitalist group? What type of consulting services would you suggest? And third, what's the new model for generational wealth?
Let's start on the end with Pete Frank.
Well, obviously, one of the issues I think, and I'm Pete Frank, I produce shows like Unsung, American Gangster, BET Awards. Like you said, I'm so happy to be here because, you know, ownership is what I'm about here. I produce a show called Unsung, which airs on TV One. I also produce a show called Celebrity Crime Files, American Gangster. I was formerly executive editor of The Source magazine and worked a long time. BET Awards and all sorts of content on different levels, the Olympics, for which I won an Emmy. But today, you know, as a hip hop person, thank you very much. But you know, I think for me as a person who's been in the game, and obviously somebody like Ed, who's been in terms of television and film, and seeing a lot of times our art forms not owned by people, and us being the talent. You can watch any NBA show and see all they use our music and content and our swerve, but they don't want to pay us and have ownership in it. So, you know, one of my frustrations from, you know, I'm not going to name names, but some of the biggest television shows that you watch, there's no black editors. There's all white executives. We own none of it. And so it's important for us in 2015 to have economic control over our content because they need it and they use it and they make money off of it. A lot of the hip hop artists that I know, we frequently talking about how they can control their brands, how, you know, I used an example earlier when I was talking about a friend of mine, DJ Quick. He sold 400,000 copies of an album in 1999 and they still dropped it. And he barely made any money off of that and they said he owed them. In today's economy, he has his own record deal. He can sell 50,000 and make a lot more money because he owns it on his own deal. That's flipping the script from going from a slave to a plantation owner. So that's what I'm about. I think it's really important for me. Now the internet has leveled the playing field. One of the things that we're talking about today is Hip Hop TV, the first 24-hour over-the-top network that broadcasts hip hop content on the net, but really as a TV station. It's important for us to have control over that and be able to disseminate information to Africa, Europe, wherever content is revolving around hip hop. I come from a Black Panther mentality in Oakland.
Yeah, baby.
My boy Mark Curry, when the police were harassing us and kept beating us down, they didn't say, hey, let's go march the streets. They got some shotguns and say, hey, we're gonna patrol you. And if you get out of pocket, we're gonna have to handle our business. We gotta think as warriors now, not so much as passive. That day is over. You saw, I'm sure, what happened to Eric Garner. He said, I can't breathe on national television, international television. And they still said there's no charges. So what are you going to do? Whether you produce content, whether you're you on the radio, whether you're Freeway Rick, whatever it is, you got to take control. I'm going to keep saying the 3 words all day today. Ownership, ownership, ownership.
And I would say the 2 words, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Rick Ross, better known for the drug empire that I ruled in Los Angeles. I basically went from $125 and I turned it into as much as $3 million a day sometimes. 2 years I made at least $1 million every day, and in between the 1 million and the 3 million. Went to prison, got a life sentence, taught myself to read and write in prison, won my own case. After I won my case, I still had 9 years to live. So what I wanted to do was find out, how did I make the money that I made in the drug business? Was it luck, or was it by accident or by chance? I started studying everybody in this country that was making money, from Sam Walton to the guy that owned Nikes, to Red Summerstone who owns Viacom. I read over 300 books before I left prison, and I don't know how many magazines. Matter of fact,
I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of tripping right now when I'm hanging out with Ed Lover. And it's kind of exciting. I'm growing up with hip hop, and I've seen what it has and the impact it has on our families and our lives. And being a newspaper owner, we talked a lot about earlier, having ownership in something, owning your own property, owning what you have. Black newspapers are owned by black people. We own what we say. And we can say what we say without having somebody tell us that we can't write about it, we can't print it, we can't talk about the picture. We can write what we want to write. We choose to write about hip hop. We choose to write about everything that you all have been doing, everything that we have been doing. And the point is that right now, you're at a certain level to where you have to take ownership in what you do. And the Black Press is here to make sure that every story that you want to talk about, every issue that you want to be heard about, every opportunity that you need to talk about what's important, we will be there to print it for you, and it will be a record of Black history. Anybody can have a website, anybody can go post something up on Twitter, put something in Facebook, but everybody cannot have the opportunity to have their picture and their story recorded in history in the Black Press. And so if you continue to do what you're doing, we've been doing it all along. But our goal now is to partner and to stay on top. We went down to Miami with Tony and his team, and it was incredible to see what was going on. And to find out that really nobody has been writing and recording your history so that we can have a written record of it. Because even when the president told everybody that he was born in the United States, what did he need? He needed a piece of paper. When you go to the bank and they ask you, well, did you pay all these bills that you say you had? What do you need to have? You need to have proof. You need a piece of paper. So when we talk about our history and they say, well, Ed Lover made $20 billion in the hip hop industry. Is it true? It's right here on paper. It's right here on paper. So we're here to record the history of everything you do for the next several hundred years. You keep hearing that print is going to be dead, but as long as they print money, and as long as they print warrants, and as long as they print everything else, we need to have our paperwork in order too. So I want to say to you that this is a union that I'm proud of. Jineea came to us a while ago to say, what do we need to do? I said, whatever you want to do. So to me, Hip hop is a part of my life. I'm not really that old, even though I look that old, but it is a part of what I grew up with, and it's a part of what I'll still be doing years from now. So to all of you, I want to say thank you. God bless you. The Black Press is here as your partner, as your record keeper, and as your friend. So continue to do what you do, and we're going to be right here the rest of the way. So Jineea, thank you for the opportunity. We look forward to the partnership and moving on in the next 75 years. Thank you.
This is what the Hip Hop Union and hip hop can do. So now I just want, before I introduce the rest of the panel, I want to introduce Miss Jody Davis from Al Jazeera. She wants to give a nice special presentation from Al Jazeera TV.
Thanks, Jineea. Hi, everybody. So, Ricky Donnelly Ross, better known as Freeway Rick Ross, is one of those figures, a rare figure, whose experience as a drug kingpin has led him to a life of rebuilding the community in which he once helped destroy. Freeway Rick is an author, a philanthropist, and an entrepreneur. His book, Freeway, The Untold Biography, chronicles his journey from a life of crime to his release from prison and the lessons that he learned along the way. Rick is also the subject of Al Jazeera America's new powerful documentary, Freeway Crack in the System. It debuts on the network on Sunday, March 1st at 9 p.m. It's a fascinating film that reveals the real story of crack cocaine in America. I don't know if you know about Al Jazeera, but we're an international news channel. We're in the US, we're in more than 61 million homes, and we're in New York City on Time Warner and on Verizon Fios. I want to thank Jineea Butler, CEO of Hip Hop Union, and James Wallace, CEO of World Bookings, for presenting Al Jazeera America with this opportunity to introduce Freeway Rick Ross. And without further ado,
You're listening to Enterprise on Blog Talk Radio with your host, Erica Collins.